today's video I would do a October wrap-up. I'd show you all the books I read in October, give you my reviews, my thoughts, my opinions, if I liked them, if I didn't like them, if I would read that author again. I've never been a big reader, and now I have a TBR cart which is filled with books that I want to read. Some girl, I was like, who on earth is this randomer that's popped up on my recommended? I was like, I'm not even into books, but I was like, I'll just watch it and see how I feel. And that girl was Destiny. If you aren't subscribed to her, please subscribe to her because she's honestly amazing, and she rose my interest of me getting into books. I'm so glad that she did. I started reading on the 12th of October. Anyway, so the first book that I picked up, it was between three. I couldn't decide between Verity, Ugly Love or Confess, and the only one that stood out then was Verity because I seen like on the back page, literally up here, it just says a thriller. That's all I read, and I was like, yeah, I'm gonna read this book. This book took me 2 days to read. I was like, this book is very thick. Very thick. I was like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to finish it because there are so many pages. And then I was looking at the chapters and I was like, oh, the chapters aren't even that big. I thoroughly enjoyed this book. I gave this book 5 stars and it was honestly amazing. I loved the storyline. I loved the characters. I literally was obsessed with Lowen and Jeremy's story. And the manuscript and the letter, the manuscript literally had me gobsmacked. Like, my jaw was dropped reading the manuscript. Like, obviously there were some hard subjects to read in here. I really flew through this book and I was like, okay, I see now why everyone is hyping up this Colleen Hoover. So then I went out and I bought another book. So the next book that I read was It Ends With Us. Oh my goodness. I literally fell in love reading this book. I fell in love with Atlas and Lily. This book literally had me sobbing, and I give this book 5 stars. A lot of people said to make sure you look up the warnings before reading this book because there were some like triggering things in here. I did love this book. Lily and Atlas's story was just amazing, and then obviously then she met Ryle and that didn't really work out right. He wasn't the best person. I found myself getting like very annoyed just when his name popped up. I was like, oh my god. But this book was definitely so good. It had me ugly crying throughout. I went down on the 18th of October and I picked up It Starts With Us. I was just the tad bit annoyed that it was a hardcover, not a soft cover. It doesn't really bother me because I really enjoyed this book. Oh my goodness. This book made me fall in love with Atlas even more as a character. The way that he was with Lily is just absolutely amazing, and I love that she has all of her other books in series. Is that a word? The book as well. So we have like the Hopeless series, the Slam series, Maybe Someday, and then like his standalone books. I thoroughly enjoyed this book. I gave this book 5 stars. I know a lot of people have been rating it quite low, or some people said that they were getting a bit annoyed with like all the letter diary entries, but I loved it, and I loved the fact that she was letting Atlas read them. But yeah, I loved it. I loved that they got married, and I hope that Lily and Atlas are doing well. Lily and Atlas are always characters that are on my mind. I'll be thinking to myself like, I wonder what Lily and Atlas are up to. Even though it's not real, but they're characters that will always stick with me, and I just loved this book. It was so good. The next book that I read, Confess. Oh my gosh. I could not stop crying reading this. I know that sounds stupid, but literally I just couldn't stop crying. This book was absolutely amazing. I loved it so much, and now I understand why so many people are like, Confess is my favourite Coho book, and you know, Confess has a special place in my heart, and I'm like, I agree, I'm on that train with you. But this is about Aben and Owen, and pretty much Owen has a background which he hasn't told Aben. You know, it says on the back that all Owen needs to do to save their relationship is confess, but in this case the confession could be much more destructive than the actual sin. I did thoroughly enjoy this book. Now you understand why there are pictures in the book and like all the meanings behind them, and why his like shop was pretty much confessions of anonymous people, and it links all the way back to the start of the book, which literally had me sobbing. Then the next book that I read, I wanted to read Colleen Hoover's November 9th, which is currently on my normal TBR, but then a lot of people said that you meet Tate and Miles from Ugly Love because it's in the same universe. So I was like, okay, who are Tate and Miles? What book is that? And that was Ugly Love. So I read this book, and to be honest, I gave this 4 stars. Sometimes I'll look at it and I'm like, this book just gives me meh. I think that's what I wrote on Goodreads. I enjoyed this book, but to be honest, I don't really know how I feel about it. Yeah, the characters were good, but it just made me feel meh. So this book did just make me feel meh. And I still feel like that now. Obviously it was about Rachel, Miles and Tate. Miles and Rachel wanted to be together, but they couldn't because their parents ended up getting together. Like Miles's dad and Rachel's mum ended up getting together, so that means they couldn't be together. But then they were together secretly, which I don't know. Obviously they weren't married yet, but that just made me feel weird. Like, you're gonna be like, I think it would be like stepbrother and sister, and you're together secretly. Like, I don't know, that just made me feel really awkward. I don't know, this book just makes me feel meh, and obviously I'm happy I read it because now I know what I'm going into, and now I understand the characters more for November 9th. But this book was just meh. That's all I have to say about that book. And then the next book that I read, I wanted to go away from Colleen Hoover. I was like, I just want a break from her after reading Ugly Love. I feel like I was on such a high with the books, and then I read Ugly Love and it just went like on a flat. So I was like, okay, I want a break now from Colleen Hoover just for a little bit. So then it was coming closer then to Halloween. I think there were like 6 days until Halloween when I started this book. I read this on the 25th of October and I finished it on the 27th of October. And that is The Ex-Hex by Erin Sterling. I gave this book 4 stars. And yeah, it will definitely get you in the Halloween fall mood. But I don't know how I feel about this book. This is another book that I just don't know how I feel about. I feel like this book was overhyped personally. I felt a bit lost reading it. I don't know if that was because obviously this was my first time reading a different author to Colleen Hoover, because I was so used to her writing, it could have been that. But this book is about Reese and Viviny, and Viviny put a hex on an X. That's what she done. And obviously they thought that they were just playing around, but they weren't, and it was true. And now he had like this curse on him, and it all went like messed up. And then they ended up getting back together. I don't know. This book will definitely get you in the fall vibes, and it's like witchy because there are witches in there. But I just don't know how I feel. Because I was going to get the kiss curse. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to get the kiss curse as well. But now reading the first book, I was like, do I really want to get the kiss curse? I don't know if I enjoyed her style of writing, or I don't know if that was just me because I went to a different author. I think I would probably have to reread it to see how I truly feel about it, but right now. Then the next book that I read was, this one just kept popping up on my Instagram, and every time I seen it in the works I was like, I really want to get it. Like, I didn't want to read the blurb, I just wanted to get it because I had seen it everywhere. And this was The American Roommate Experiment, and oh my gosh, this is so far one of my favourite books. Like, obviously Confess is my favourite Colleen Hoover book, but this is my favourite Eleanor Armour's book. I think that's how you pronounce her name. And we follow Rosie and Lucas, and I didn't know that this was a part of a series, so I'm sorry. I just wanted to read this, and I really enjoyed. This book was very thick. I think it was around 400 pages, this book was, so very much different to like the normal 200, 300 that I was reading, and I was literally hooked from the start. I loved this book. I loved Lucas, I loved Rosie. I thought that they were adorable, and I never thought that I would love a slow burn book, because with Colleen Hoover they just get to the point, like she gets to the point, but this was more of a slow burn and I really enjoyed it. It was like enough slow burn, like not too much, not too little. It was enough slow burn for them to get to the point. Catalina was, I think, away for the wedding in this book, and Rosie was going to use her apartment to do her story writing. She was a romance writer, so she was going to use Catalina's apartment to do her story writing, so then she can get this other book out. But little did she know that Lucas was also going to be staying in that apartment, and then they ended up staying together, and Rosie had a massive crush on Lucas, and I'm just so happy that things worked out for them. Obviously Catalina wasn't that happy about it in the start, but then she understood, and this book had me sobbing at the end, especially when it was the New Year thing. If you know, then you know. But I really enjoyed this book. I loved it. I would definitely read it again. So I gave this book 5 stars. Then the last book that I read this month, it had to be The Spanish Love Deception, and I literally finished this morning. This book has been the thickest book that I've read. This is nearly 500 pages, and I read this. So this is the first book in the series, and I gave this book 4 stars. I know some people love it, some people hate it, but I'm kind of in the middle. I love it, and I also am not a fan of it. I love it because I love the characters, I love Catalina, and oh my gosh, I loved Aaron. Like, I don't know. I feel like he was, I don't know, in the beginning I was like, oh, who is this man? Because on the first page it literally says, I'll be your date to the wedding. Because she was talking about the wedding and he was there. But yeah, I loved Aaron and I loved Catalina, and I loved that things worked out for them. But I feel like this was too much slow burn for me personally, because like you read it and nothing really happens until the end chapters, so it's like it's building up, but then I was reading it and I was like, okay, it's built up too much now, I just need to know what happens. So this is a fake dating trope, and it was really good, but it was just a bit too much slow burn for me. But yeah, I did enjoy it. It was just too much slow burn. I loved the characters. I loved Aaron and Catalina, loved their story, loved that we also seen a pop of Rosie in there as well. So obviously this must have been Catalina's book, and then this was Rosie's book, because this is about Rosie and Lucas. And I do just want to say, these covers are so cute. I love them. They're so cute, and I love the colours, like when they're together. Like these colours just scream summer to me, and I love it. So that is that. But yeah, they are all the books that I read in October. I read a total of 8 books in October. Bearing in mind we were in, what was it, like the second week? Not even like the second week, under the second week of being in October, and I have read 8 books. So yeah, these were all the books that I read in October, which is crazy. Not a lot of thriller books, like the XX and Verity were the only thrillers, otherwise it was romance. I really hope that you guys enjoyed today's video. It was very chatty, very bookish. But yeah, I really hope that you guys enjoyed. If you did, please remember to subscribe down below if you haven't already. Drop a like on this video and follow me on my socials if you don't already, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!